Hello again, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It is match preview time, but just to warn you all, I am recording slightly earlier in the week this time, so this is being sorted out before Wednesday's stuffed crust pizza game against Charlton Athletic. You never know, we might have scored a goal by the time you're watching this. We might have won a football match, might have even made a signing, but don't hold your breath. Um, Pleased to say I'm joined by Stephen, who is a Swindon Town fan, and he is part of the Falls Rush In STFC podcast. So I'll put their details and Stephen's in the description at the bottom of the video. So go check them out. Sure, there'll be their perspective ahead of the game. I'm not sure too many Gills fans will want to follow Swindon podcasts, and I'm sure the feeling's mutual for the rest of the season, but needs must, and we'll be nice to each other for the next 15, 20 minutes or so. But Stephen, as everyone can see, you sat in your car, so I do appreciate you taking time out of your lunch hour to come and have a chat. Are you good?
No, it's a pleasure to be invited on. Thank you very much.
No problem at all. We'll get cracking so you can go and eat your sandwiches.
Thank you.
Both teams have now played 6 in the league. I think that's generally the sort of barometer of what you're looking at over a portion of time in terms of how teams are playing. It's not pretty reading for Gills. It's slightly prettier reading for Swindon. Gills have taken 4 points.
That depends on which Swindon fan you talk to, because me, it's not good at all.
Of course, and that's the same with Gillingham. But I just laughed you off air, and we're basically relegated already. So,
yeah,
but
indeed.
I can understand the frustration from Gills' point of view. We still need, for me, a minimum of 2. We need a centre back and we need another striker. And time is ticking. So, wait for the full-on meltdown come Thursday evening if we don't get either, or if we only get one, I'd imagine. But yeah, Gills, like I say, 4 points from the first 6 games. So it's not a great start back in League Two. That's that solitary win against Rochdale. There was a draw at home to Walsall we should have won, and it's 4 defeats. 4 defeats which we've not scored in. Swindon, single win as well, but 4 draws, only 1 defeat. So 7 points from the first half dozen. Home and away. Gills have been all right at home, to be fair. We've taken 4 points from 9. The game we lost against Harrogate was probably our worst hour at home so far this season. We should have slapped Rochdale 3, 4 or 5 and no one would have batted an eyelid. And we would have bet aside against Walsall and hit the post in the last couple of minutes. Swindon on the road, 2 draws and a single defeat. There's a couple of teams that you've played that we've played already as well, Stephen. I was looking at, I know you played Walsall in the trophy, lost 2-0, I think.
We did.
We drew 0-0 with them in the league. Obviously, it'd be slightly different Walsall to what you'd have played and what we'd have played. You got walloped by Harrogate 3-0. We got beaten 2-0 at home by Harrogate. I think they're a lot better than I certainly gave them credit for at the start of the season.
I think the argument there is yes, probably, but we both probably also made them look better than they actually are as well.
Yeah, there's definitely a case for that as well. We bossed the first 35 minutes and should have been 2 or 3 up, but that's our problem at the moment. We don't take chances when we're on top, and then we give away soft goals. We then come out second half and we have a go, and we don't take our chances, and then we concede another goal. Rinse and repeat for the first 6 games, unfortunately. You've also drawn with Carlisle, I think, in the league. 1-1, and we got beat. Should have been a draw Saturday. Should have been 0-0 at worst, because it was one of them games where there was nothing in it. I think I didn't go when I watched it back on iFollow, because I have to do this channel, unfortunately. I think we had more shots on target, better pass completion, more corners. It's the one statistic that matters, isn't it? And that's the one that goals.
What's interesting hearing you is the recurring use of the word should, which is one that a lot of our fans is using as well. Should, unfortunately, as we're finding out, gets you absolutely nothing, does it?
Absolutely agree with that. And I've said that there are positives to our performance, and we've played some good stuff in the middle third. But when you're not good enough in the final third at either end, it's going to cause you a problem. And we're conceding too many soft goals, and we're just not scoring at the other end. So fingers crossed it will change. But until it does, I can understand why fans are getting slightly frustrated, panicked. But let's talk about you. Obviously, we want to get a Swindon perspective. That's the reason for these chats. Scott Lindsay is your new manager, was appointed in the summer after Ben Garmer up sticks and went to Charlton Athletic in League One. Obviously, there's a lot of Kent links to Scott Lindsay. He was at Chatham as a coach before taking the job with you lot. He played, I think, a dozen games for Gills in 94, 95, but predominantly he's played non-league. a lot of Kent non-league sides: Dover, Sittingbourne, Ashford, Welling, Folkestone, Maidstone United.
Yeah.
What was the initial thoughts when he was appointed, and what are the thoughts now of the fan base after a month or two of him being in charge?
It was mixed, I think it's fair to say.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just never mind the fan base, our podcast alone was quite mixed. We tried to be quite positive and open-minded about things, but
Sure.
I think a lot of people looked at it as a cheap option because it took so long to do, and then we ended up appointing from within. I think what doesn't help, and I know it's another one of those things that means nothing, but when you see XYZ names being linked, and then you end up with M, for example.
Sure.
A lot of fans are a bit like, oh, we could get, oh, we got, and it's like, and if we'd had a better start, there wouldn't be a question. But there are already just rumblings within the fan base that some people are. There's a lot of concern, and I would say I was one of those. I'm quite concerned by the level of performance he's managing to get out of the players at the minute. It is improving, but it's still not great. And as I alluded to, the results haven't been great either. There's not a massive early doors Lindsay out campaign. That's the one good thing. I'm very conscious that fans can knee jerk a lot, and that's not just Swindon fans. That's every support.
Yeah, we get that as well. Yeah.
There's not a massive Lindsay out campaign early doors, but there is a very growing trend of we'll give him till September, see where the land lies in October, and if it's not improved much on where it is, if we're in the same sort of position we are now at the end of September, I think there'll be massive Lindsay out calls.
And do you think that comes purely because you had such a good season last season? So obviously the next progression now is obviously probably to win the playoffs or target the top three.
I think that's partly to do with it. I think, and thing is, we've all supported football teams long enough to know there's no side too good to achieve anything. I think that the capabilities of the current squad is better than what it's showing, at least performance-wise for the most part. Okay. I don't necessarily think the style of play is what was promised to us at the start of the season, if that makes sense. And I just think there's too many ducks not fallen in that row yet. I'm still confident that Swindon can do it, and I'd love nothing more than Lindsay to be the man that does it for us. But it does need to improve and improve quickly.
Sounds like you're talking as a Gills fan, to be honest, because we're exactly the same. And I know Neil Harris performed a miracle in itself last season, nearly keeping us up because we were 10 points adrift when he took over with 18 games to play. So we'd written it off. So to take it to Rotherham on the last day was an achievement in itself, but obviously it hurt all over again when you do give yourself a chance and then you end up still going down. But I think there's been a few murmurings now amongst the Gills fan base that at what point does Harris have to start taking some of the blame? He got a free swing last year because it wasn't his squad. He arrived with about 8 hours of the window left and walked in and saw his captain sold and managed to get in one of his former lads from Millwall as a direct replacement on loan. But that was literally it. So it was working with other people's tools and clearing up other people's mess. But I think there was a statistic that was going around after the weekend. We've now played 26 games under Neil Harris. We've blanked in 15 of them.
Wow.
The other side is because you have to try and look at both sides, which a lot of fans don't, unfortunately, is I think we've kept 12 or 13 clean sheets in the same period. But at the moment, we're just not scoring and then we're conceding a silly goal. So that equals defeats. And we've not scored 2 at home in a league game since last August. I think Rochdale at the start of the month was our first home win on a Saturday since last August. So you can see where the problems lie from an outsider's perspective. But yeah, they were just starting to be at what point does Neil Harris have to start taking some of the blame, because it is essentially his squad now. But we do understand there is still 48 hours of the window or so to go. If we can get 2 in that are first 11 ready, then I'm confident the improvements will be made quite quickly, because there's a lot that we are doing right. But like we've already said, all the while you're struggling both boxes. You're not going to win as many as you lose, unfortunately. Correct. Talking of both boxes, I looked through your transfers. I want to talk about one departure in a little while, but I'm going to talk about incomings. There was a couple that stood out to me that I thought were very good additions. One was Kian Harries. This was back in the summer. Obviously, you can tell me how they're doing. Arrived from Bristol Rovers, who got promoted out of this division last season.
Kian's not quite broke into the first team because of other additions we've had. He's actually the player that we as a podcast have sponsored this season. So it's nice that you've picked him out. Unfortunately, he got sent off last night in the pizza trophy, in our defeat to Palace. But again, yeah, I would agree. He was one that we sort of picked out in the sport. He might not be the main guy, but I do believe there will come a point this season where we do see his true character and ability, and he will prove a point. We do have quite a few centre backs within the squad, so he's got a battle to get that place. But I think if he gets a run, he'll certainly prove why we've signed him.
Yeah, I'm just looking at obviously the way his season went last season. Ultimately got promoted. You think it's a very good addition? Knows the level. Still a good age, a very good age. The other one I picked out was Angus MacDonald, who you got from Rotherham.
Yeah, so a lot of fans were very excited when he signed. I think it's a fitness and confidence thing. He didn't necessarily start the greatest, but then as a club, we didn't start the greatest. I think his individual performances, much like ours, are gradually improving. And he should prove to be a very key cog in whatever we do this year.
That's what I think. Again, there's another link. That's what I'm hoping with Gills is that, and I know this phrase gets bandied about, oh, they're gelling, it's got to take time, there's lots of new signings, but at the same time, with 6 league games in there, how long does that piece of string keep getting chucked about before it starts wearing very thin amongst the fan base? And I am hoping that, and I did liken us to Bristol Rovers last season when we came down. I said, I think we will start slowly, but I think once we get used to how we want to play and how Neil Harris wants to play, because it is a complete change to Steve Evans. And Neil Harris has surprised me in the fact that he has wanted us to get it on the floor a lot, rather than, because he's generally quite a direct manager, plays 4-4-2, but he's changed that. So I am hoping still that there is this thing with gelling, and maybe if we score an early goal Saturday, it might just click and confidence comes flowing through everyone, and we might win comfortably. But I've been a Gills fan long enough to know that probably won't happen.
Forgive me if I don't hope that happens.
No, that's absolutely fine. I'm not expecting you to go, oh yeah, Gills will win 4-0. I don't think any Gills fans are going to predict that as well, to be fair. One outgoing I want to have a chat about as well, and I want to see if it links into another player that you've got who might not be your player.
Let me guess where this is going. You want to talk about Payne so that we can link into McCurdy?
It's like he's got the script. Yes, I wanted to say, because Harry McCurdy was very good last season, and took you all the way to the playoffs. There's always been murmurings, question marks, and maybe about the temperament and the attitude. I think there was an interview.
There's more than questions and murmurings, believe me.
There was an interview, I think, after the Port Vale game last season where he made some comments. There's obviously been an early red card this season as well. But my question to you, Stephen, is obviously last season you had Jack Payne as well. And I had a quick look. I think it was 41 games in all competitions. It was 20 goal contributions, which was 14 goals and 6 assists, which is a massive output. So that would have almost taken the pressure off Harry McCurdy. You then had Johnny Williams as well. So you've got 3 there that you say are very good creative influences in the team.
Yep.
Now Jack Payne's gone. Is there maybe a case that McCurdy thinks he's got to step up even more?
No.
Or is it that he's just a bit of an idiot and he needs to sort his head out sometimes and not make himself get sent off?
So yeah, anyone who does listen or watch to our podcast would know my opinion on that. I think there is talent there, but he does need to sort the temperament and mentality out a bit. I think he's the sort of character, and I can't say for sure. I can only go on my interpretation.
Sure.
I think the minute he broke in and proved and deserved his place within the first team, he's the sort of person who thinks, I am the big guy. So whether Payne's there, whether Williams is there, he always thought he was going to be the main guy. So the fact they're not there anymore, he'll still think he's the main guy.
Right, okay.
What it has done is they did have a good chemistry between the two of them in particular. And one of my concerns is that we don't create enough. And losing Payne is a big part of that, and I think that has led towards some of the frustration that McCurdy's been showing on the pitch when he has been available to play.
And he is unavailable Saturday, so that's a good thing from a Gills point of view.
Because I don't necessarily think he's going to be in the squad anyway.
Because this talk now, I think, has come out over the last few hours of Hibernian have come in for him, I believe. Is that correct? Is that, I don't know, obviously you guys know more down at your end. Is it just sort of social media talk, or is there real legs to it? Or
there's been rumours of Hibs for a while. I think the interest has become a bit more serious now.
Okay.
And yeah, if you were to ask me, by the end of the window, I don't think he will be a Swindon player.
So then suddenly that's a big chunk of goals and assists and flair from what you had last season in Payne and McCurdy.
On the flip side to that, if you were to ask me, I think we're likely to probably bring 4 players in between now and the end of the deadline, and 2 of those will be strikers, and at least one of them, in my opinion, will be a recognised name capable of scoring goals. I think Swindon still have their big transfer left in them.
Show off. I'm not sure we've got a big transfer left in us, unfortunately, and that's not me being negative, but I just think a lot of the targets that we had seem to have gone elsewhere. The one that I was desperate for was Aaron Pierre as an experienced centre half, and he went to Sutton. And no disrespect to Sutton, but it says a lot of where we are as a club currently, that we cannot compete with a team that was in the National League 18 months ago. But that's for another episode, I'd imagine. There's still 72 hours left. Let's hope that Neil Harris can pull a couple of rabbits out of the hat from a Gills perspective.
For what it's worth, I actually rate Harris, and I think he'll do. I think he'll be fine.
I've said I think he's the best manager in the division, and I know Bradford fans jumped on me and said
I won't go that far, but I think he'll be fine.
But I think it's like anything, though, isn't it? If you don't support the manager enough, then obviously you're going to come up short. But we have to wait until that window slams shut, and then we can make a proper judgment on where we think we'll be. I certainly think we're going to end up lower than I predicted back in the summer. I said 8th. That looks very optimistic at the moment.
I think we predicted. I don't think we actually predicted Gills to necessarily have the greatest of seasons, and I think we said you'd be the top end of the bottom half.
I think a lot of fans would take that, to be honest, at the moment. That's such is the negativity, I suppose, is probably the word around the fan base at the moment. And I think it is a massive 2 days in terms of if we can get someone in.
Definitely.
I think if it's 1, there'll still be uproar. I think if it's 2, they have to be first 11 ready. I might close my Twitter account if it's none for a few days. But we shall see. Obviously, like I said, we're recording this on a Wednesday, so it's very early in terms of press conferences ahead of the weekend game. Stephen Swindon did play their Papa John's Trophy game. I will give it its full name for once. Lost to Crystal Palace. Gills are playing Wednesday evening against Charlton at the Valley. We know it'll be a much changed team. But just from your point of view, Stephen, if you're Scott Lindsay and you're picking the team, how do you expect Swindon to line up come 3 p.m. Saturday at the Priestfield?
It's so tough because he wants to play this 3-5-2, but it just doesn't seem to work. And we do seem to at least look like we play better with a more sort of 4-3-3. So I'd expect it to be the 4-3-3.
I was just having a look at your fixtures, and it seems you fluctuated between the two over the first sort of opening weeks of the season.
We appear to have recruited very much for the 3-5-2, but very quickly changed to this 4-3-3 because it just wasn't working.
See, we recruited for a back 4, and then Neil Harris realised that we can't defend for Toffee, so now he's gone to a back 3, and we've actually only got 3 centre backs on the books, which is not the greatest. So hence our desperation for at least one central defender in the next couple of days.
I think it'll be fairly settled. The interesting one is whether Darcy carries on in this right back position that he's being forced to play, because apparently the players we brought in who are right wing backs just aren't capable of playing right back, bizarrely. McDonald will almost certainly play as long as he's fit, and I think Clayton will partner in defence. There's talk of a new left back coming in. I don't necessarily think that will happen, so it'll be the lad that scored at the weekend that we got on loan from Burton. Khan is ever growing presence within the team, so he'll be in midfield, probably alongside Reed as long as he's not sold. Gladwin as well, probably in midfield, and then it'll be Williams on one side, and it depends on what happens in these next few hours. Who else is up top, I suppose.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's tricky to pick because there might be new faces to choose from.
But yeah, the thing is, I'm one of these who generally I'm a realist, and I you know, if things are bad, I'll call them out as being bad. But I'm also a very positive fan generally, so I'm quite confident to come on and say that even though we've only won one game this season, we will win the game. And whether we'll keep a clean sheet is another thing. But if we're not great at keeping clean sheets, but if you're not great at scoring goals, it's not going to lead into a
Not
high
going to be
scoring
first on the
affair.
highlights, is it? I don't think.
No, certainly not. I'm going to go. I think we can possibly come away with a 3-1 win.
I can understand why. I can't sit here and say that, oh, that's a ridiculous prediction because we're conceding. I mean, we have only conceded 3 once this season. Most of the defeats have been 1-0, but yeah, I can understand.
We'll see.
You've said we're going to score a goal, so I'll take that, I think.
Yeah, no, well, there you go. Trying to be nice.
In terms of the Gills team, I think it'd be Glenn Morris in goal. Again, barring any injuries that occur Wednesday evening. Back three will be Will Wright, Max Emar and Elkan Baggott, unless we sign someone between now and then. I think it'll be Shea Alexander and David Tondra. I'd give another go at left wing back. So that would be the 2 wing backs. Hoping that Sean Williams is fit because he's missed the last 3 or 4. He's been a big miss. So hopefully if he's fit, he'll partner Stuart O'Keefe in the middle of the park. And I'd like to then, we've been playing like a 3-4-2-1 for the last few weeks with almost sort of like 2 wider number 10s. But I think we need to change it. Not because I don't think they're good players, but because we're not scoring goals. So I'd like to get Ben Reeves higher up. And then I'd like to see us play a front pair. But you're giving your score prediction anyway, and I know you're on your lunch break, so we'll start wrapping this up. I've said I think it'll be 0-0 or 1-0 either way. I can't see it being a thriller, unfortunately.
But the thing is, we're both going in with that sort of mentality. This has definitely got 7-6 written all over it, hasn't it?
It'd be nice, wouldn't it? I'll get some views on the match day vlog, but unless it's 7-6 to Swindon. Stephen, I appreciate your time because, like I say, I know you're on your lunch break and you've got to shoot off back to work. So I really do appreciate you coming on and having a chat. Gills fans, Swindon fans, get commenting down below once the video's on YouTube. Let us know what you think your team will be. Let us know what you think the score prediction will be. Please keep liking, subscribing and doing all the usual. Myself and Bars and the gang will all be back Saturday for a match day live. But until then, enjoy the rest of your week and up the Gills.